Hey Tara, my name's Holland. I'll be doing your interview today.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
Oh, you too. Okay, let's get started with just a couple questions. So tell me about yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I am new to the Baton Rouge area. I actually just graduated from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette a couple months back. I'm super excited for this opportunity to have, just a new place to live, new place to explore. Don't do a lot in my free time, but I do enjoy hanging out with friends. And yeah, I'd say I'm spend most of my time worrying about work.
Okay, what would you say motivates you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, I would just say that really just wanting to do a good job and get it done right the first time. Um, I think without, like wanting to get that, I guess I'd say I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So if I want to get it out the first time, then I have that motivation to do my best for, whatever the situation is.
For sure. So kind of piggybacking off that, what would you say are your greatest strengths?
Um, well, I would say that I am as much of a perfectionist as I like to be, I am a bigger picture kind of person. So I would say that being able to put all the pieces together to see that big picture before actually maybe knowing the step is really helpful in this line of work. I would say that I'm also a really big people person. I'm very outgoing, and I think that that helps a lot with any kind of teamwork or any kind of clients that we'd have to work with.
Definitely. No, you're spot on. What would you identify as your greatest weaknesses?
Ooh. Um, you know, the, it's hard to think about because we all have weaknesses and we all are aware of them. But I would say that I do, piggybacking off of that um, perfectionist stuff. Sometimes I spend a little too much time on the details, and maybe that makes my work process a little bit longer than it should be. And I just kind of get caught up on those things. But I'm working on it. I'm aware of it, and I do make sure that I get my work out on time.
That's awesome. How do you handle stressors on the job?
Okay. Well, I guess it would be two different scenarios. So my preferred way to handle it would be to take a step back, take a breather, be able to separate myself from the environment or from that stressor just long enough to get a clear head about it and be able to move forward. I do realize, especially with my past experience um, in the service industry, that sometimes you don't have the chance to walk away. But at that point, I kind of just power through it and put my focus directly on whatever task I need to accomplish and then deal with the stress later.
Does your stress heavy workloads or
Um, it depends. It's usually comes from um, other factors that are beyond the control.
okay.
So if there's something that I'm not able to control, that's when I get stressed.
Okay. So describe a time when your workload was heavy and how you handled that.
Um, Okay, so when I was in school, I actually worked to put myself through school. So there were times when I would have to work 35 hours a week on top of my 16-hour school schedule, on top of my three organizations that I was a part of. And, it a lot of times I think back and I don't even remember how I did it, but I do know that I kept a planner and I prioritized tasks by date that they're due and by most important and what has the heaviest weight. So most of the time my school work did take precedence, but sometimes my job took precedence, and sometimes whatever I had going for my organization took precedence. So I really just did a task list.
And then also, have you ever made any extra efforts to meet deadlines? And if so, what steps did you take to meet those deadlines?
Um, yes. Okay, so I have done a lot of group work in the past, and you know, as much as everybody would love to say that they've had the perfect group, we all know that that doesn't exist. And so, every once in a while you would have a team member or I had a team member that just wouldn't get their part of the project done, which ended up putting more work on the rest of the team. And usually that meant me. So I would kick it into high gear. I'd stay up all night if I had to. Um, and I just made sure to power through and get it done and then get other people's opinions on it at the end. So that way, you know, I know that I didn't just throw something together. Like it was at least quality work.
Okay. So kind of like taken from what you just said, we're kind of going to go in a different direction. Tell me about a time when you had to work closely with someone whose personality was different from yours.
Okay, this reminds me of a supervisor that I had in one of my previous jobs. She was, and there's nothing wrong with it, but she was a very, what we learned in school, a Theory X leadership style. She very, I would say micromanaged. Like she wanted to be involved in every little detail in every activity or every task that I had on the job. And that's just not my style. I really like to be free to choose what I need to be doing or at least have that ability to work on my own and then let it be supervised before and after kind of thing. So it was difficult for me having her over my shoulder a lot, but at the end, well, I kind of told her in the like most professional way I could that I appreciated her supervision, I appreciated her help, but I didn't need it as often. But at the end of the day, I did realize she was my superior, and I just worked with her until the end of my job.
Okay, yeah, I think we've all had one of those. Can you tell me about a situation where you were asked to perform a task that you had never performed previously and how that went?
Okay, so actually, another previous job when I worked in the service industry, there was a day that we were very short staffed and they needed somebody to be the runner, which really just means when somebody needs something, you go get it. When the trash needs taken out, you go get it. When they needed a 50-pound box taken to the front of the store, you go get it and you bring it. And it's very high pressure situation, especially during a lunch rush. And I had never been in that position before because most often the boys did it. And they were just super short staffed and they needed somebody. So I jumped in and I just said, teach me as I go. If I have a question, I'll ask, but, let's get it done. And we did. I mean, it worked out. We made it to the end of the shift.
Okay, last question. How does your boss get you to do your best work?
Mhm. Well, I guess this kind of goes back to that boss that I had that was more of a micromanager. Wasn't my favorite, but like I mentioned, I do my best work when I'm given a task and not necessarily told every step on how to complete it. Definitely can tell me when, definitely can check up every now and then, but really just giving me the autonomy to figure out how to get to that end result that we want, that goal. If you tell me that goal, I will do whatever I can to get there, and usually it comes up with some pretty good work.
Okay, well, those are all the questions. You had some great answers. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, thank you. No, I don't think I have any right now, but if I do come up with something, could I send you an email?
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Well, it was so nice talking to you, Tara. I'll be sure to reach out if we decide you are the right candidate for the position. Thanks so much for meeting with me to have this interview.
Yes, thank you so much for your time and for having me.
Of course.